This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Recruiting expert extraordinaire from HawgSports.com on the 24/7 Sports Network. And we always enjoy talking with Danny. How you doing, Danny? Great to have you here today.
Doing great, Phil. I appreciate the invite back on. Been a long time, but looking forward to it. What you got today?
Well, we've got some recruits to talk about here, and I guess the first thing would just to be hitting on the decommitment from this last Saturday from Courtney Crutchfield. I mean, it was an odd time to do it, I guess, but maybe any time is an odd time to do it, right at kickoff of the game on Saturday. I mean, feels like that's a planned thing, but did this come out as a surprise? What did you make of this?
Yeah, I was surprised by the timing of it. Not so much that Courtney decommitted. I mean, obviously there was a change in the coordinator position. You see that a lot, especially with big-time kids. Look, man, you get to the final stretch, and we're, 6 weeks away? I want to say today is the 6-week mark from the early signing period. So you get this close to it, I mean, you're going to have a lot of schools coming at these guys, making a lot of offers, so to speak. So that part of it doesn't surprise me. The timing most definitely surprised me. I kind of liken it to Josh Frazier back in the day. For those who remember that, about a decade ago, Josh Frazier was a big-time defensive tackle at Springdale Harbor. And I think everybody knew at the time he's probably going to end up at Alabama. And sure enough, he did, but he waited until just a little bit after Arkansas lost an overtime game to Mississippi State in Little Rock. So the timing of that one, I was like, that's got to be pretty calculated, and I kind of felt the same way on this one. Coming out of a bye week, Courtney had 2 weeks to kind of think about what he wanted to do. So definitely 3 minutes before kickoff of a game, yeah, I think that was probably something he thought about, and for whatever reason, that's his right to do. But man, a few hours later, you look up and Arkansas's got 39 points, and you go, man, maybe he should have thought about it for a few more hours,
right.
So we'll see where it goes, Phil. But as of today, buddy, I don't have super high expectations of Arkansas's chances of getting this one back on board. I just think Missouri is making a really, really strong case for him, and Arkansas may be up against it on this one. The good news is you don't lose very many of these. I was doing a story about it this morning, matter of fact, on HawgSports, and did a study last night, and I found that Arkansas really doesn't miss on very many number one players in the state. It might feel like it because, when it does happen, it stings Arkansas a lot more than it does, say, Alabama, Mississippi, either of the Mississippi schools, either of the Oklahoma schools, Texas, of course, Georgia. States like that are much different, much deeper, and there's not near the drop-off from 1 to 2 that you see in our state. So it does hurt from all aspects, but more than anything, I think it hurts your perception, which we know can be a real deal, in recruiting. Perception goes a long way with a lot of kids. So when you see the number one kid in the state going somewhere else, it makes it more difficult in a lot of ways to go out and get the next one coming up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Danny, I got a quarterback question for you, but first I want to ask you, you talk about losing the number one recruit, and it doesn't happen a lot. Do we still prioritize? Do we still prioritize the 3-star Arkansas kid, or are we trying to get the 3-star Texas kid, the 3-star Florida kid? How does that go, getting some of those other players here?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a timely question for this reason. This year, Matt, I've seen Arkansas reach, if you want to use that term. Mm-hmm. They've reached on fewer in-state guys. There are some guys in the state that they probably could have offered and went out and got, and no problem. And with that probably helps your ranking a little bit. Now they've only got 18 commitments, and they've slid back down to 23rd in the country, right? So if they'd have taken an extra 2 or 3, obviously it helps your total points, but is it really helping your class? Once they get on campus, we've seen Arkansas do that in previous years where they may, roll the dice and take a flyer on an in-state kid, and lo and behold, he gets up there and he might be there for 6, 9, 12 months, and that's it. And I haven't seen them do that a whole lot in this year's in-state class, and I think that's a good thing. they are being a lot more selective, a lot more picky with the in-state crop this year, and I like that for them. The way I see it, fellas, if you can save a spot and not take a flyer on that guy that you may or may not get anything out of, and save that spot for somebody in the transfer portal that you have a whole lot more data points on and a lot more information built on, that's the route I would tend to take, and I think that's come into play a little bit for this year's class. I've seen that quite a bit.
Well, speaking of in-state players, a lot of folks wondered, with Dan Enos gone, are you going to maybe try to go after the quarterbacks that are in the state? Walker White, Drake Lindsey. I think the better way to ask this question is, what is it about KJ Jackson, the quarterback that they've had a commitment for from Montgomery, Alabama, that makes him stand out from the in-state kids? Because obviously that's the direction they went.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say, too, that KJ's a guy that they felt strong about for the longest, too. They had him in camp. Obviously, Walker was a different deal. Coach Enos showed up and had very little time between the time he started recruiting Walker and the time that Walker had already made up his mind, I want to get my decision out of the way. That was a really short window there for Enos to work with. And, the timing of it all just didn't work out. So what do? They go after KJ Jackson, a kid they've seen in camp dating back to last June of 2022. They've had plenty of intel on this one. And, just from a football standpoint, 6'3", about 225 right now, can sling it. He's not a Jefferson, KJ Jefferson type where he's just going to bowl over people, but he can move around. He can throw on the run and make things happen in the pocket. But, he's got a big arm. I think he's thrown for 27 touchdowns this year to only 2 interceptions. He's got a few hundred rushing yards. He's got 7 or 8 rushing touchdowns, down in the red zone. So athletic kid, super smart kid. I think this is one that you're probably going to want to bring on halftime at some point because I think you'll enjoy talking to him. But there's a lot to like there. And, the same could be said for Drake Lindsey and Walker White, too. Let's not get it twisted here. Both of those guys are really, really good. And I totally understand people going, especially with Drake, the way he's come on this year. I can totally understand people going, hey, this is a kid named Lindsey, and he's at Fayetteville High breaking records and all this. I get it. But, I can only answer for KJ, and I like what I see there. So I can't say I blame him for sticking with KJ Jackson on this one. He's really good himself.
Danny, tell me, we got some speed coming in at some skill positions. Do we have any 4-4 guys coming in? Are there any 4-4 guys that are still out there?
Yeah, I think Ashton Bethel-Roman, wide receiver out of Missouri City, Texas, Ridge Point. We could sit here and talk about the loss of Courtney Crutchfield all day, and make no mistake, it was a really big loss in a lot of ways. But, that's the kind of the saving grace with this year's receivers class. You still have Ashton. He's almost a top 100. I think he's 112 in the country overall ranking, so a stud in his own right. Then, of course, C.J. Brown. For those of you in Northwest Arkansas who have seen C.J. play at Bentonville, you already know this is a borderline 4-star himself, really dynamic, speed-type guy, to answer your question there, Matt. And then on the defensive side, man, they've got a kid named Akari Johnson, who's, I want to say, the second lowest commitment they have on board right now, but kid out of Texarkana, Pleasant Grove. We're calling him a cornerback, but, Matt, he's played quarterback on offense. He can do it all, and they ask him to do it all. And and I think you're going to like that one especially. Akari Johnson, that's AHKHARI Johnson. So keep an eye on him. They've got some other DBs in this class that I'm really high on. Jaden Allen, borderline 4-star out of Aledo, Texas. He's going to be back on campus again this weekend as his team has a bye week. I'm trying to think who else might fit the mold there. Selman Bridges, obviously a 6'3", 175 corner, top 100 player himself, 4-star out of Temple, Texas. He was a big-time kid. He can run, too. So there is some speed. I would, if I had my druthers, if I was in charge, I'd probably like another offensive tackle, one that you feel really good about, at least one. And then on the defensive side, I think you'll probably see them go the JUCO route or the transfer portal route again, and that's something we've seen, for 3 or 4 years now at Arkansas. They're going to go out and get the guys on the defensive line that they feel really good about, and that's because they're not getting them from the high school ranks, right? It's really tough to go against LSU and A&M, and even Ole Miss right now is getting these 4-star types defensive linemen out of the high school ranks. In Arkansas, for whatever reason, they do have 2 4-stars on board, but when it comes to that interior defensive tackle, the 6'3", 315 guy who's ready to go 4-star, it's been really tough for them to go out and get those. So they're trying to make up for it this year, especially with JUCO targets and, of course, the transfer portal where they've had quite a bit of success lately.
Danny, I want you hit on something that I'd noticed too, and there's 3 offensive linemen that are in this class. Greer from North Carolina, Madison from Lexington, Kentucky, and then there's Branham from Fort Smith. They're all interior linemen, center or guards. and I guess I'm surprised too that there aren't any tackles in the incoming class. How do you feel where Arkansas is at tackle right now, and why do you think there isn't a tackle on that class?
Well, I think the simple answer is they went after 2 really good ones and didn't get either one of them. Yeah. Honestly, it's as simple as that. Jaquan McCroy was a 4-star. He's a top 100 kid, 6'8", 365, out of Pinson, Alabama, Clay Chalkville High School. They've been on this one for well over 2 years, probably had him on campus a million times, and got him back for an official in the spring. Lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, he commits to Oregon. So I think Oregon came through with some really strong offers, if you know what I mean, and they're going to be really tough to beat to try to flip him. Having said that, Oregon is also a program that loses quite a few of these guys from faraway places because, if you look at a map, most of the country is from faraway places as it relates to the Oregon Ducks, right? So I would say they're still holding out a little bit of hope there, still making a strong run, and I think McCroy, the top 78 player in the country, has still been receptive to Arkansas, still been in talks with them down the final stretch here. So I think the door is at least cracked, but I can't sit here and tell you they're going to definitely flip him. And then, of course, Fletcher Westphal from the East Coast out in Virginia. They missed on him as well. He actually committed to Florida. I want to say he was on campus in Gainesville last week for Arkansas's game. I can't confirm that, but I guess that would be pretty sweet. A little feather in the cap on that one to go down and beat the Gators in the swamp in front of a guy that they were really counting on, to be honest. So I don't know where they go from here, Phil. They did miss on 2 really good ones there and probably a couple others I could talk about, but I think you got to make up for it at some point. Why it's gotten to the point that it has, I don't know. I think it's just plain as day to me that the guys that they have right now probably have some talent. Now, I think at some point we may all look back and say, man, I'm glad they went through that 23 season because now they've turned out to be really good players because they were thrown in the fire, but they're not ready yet, and we've seen that time and time again throughout the season. I think the transfer portal is probably your best route at this point to try to fix it and to get out of it. But so I would expect that. I would expect them, if they can't flip McCroy and can't flip Westfall down the stretch, of course, I think you've got to go the transfer route.
Yeah, and I think they will be better next year. They'll benefit from a college offseason. Danny, I got to ask you been in the Deerwoods?
Oh, man, yeah. I'm sitting here biting my nails, pacing, trying to get back out there towards the end of the week. We got a couple running around, Matt, that, I'm going to try to – I've had my eye on, so to speak. I got a couple cameras out there, and it's the type that sends it straight to your phone. So if they walk in front of the camera, man, I'm just sitting here going, how do I get out of this? How can I get out of the house and get out there, But, yeah, I've been going quite a bit and looking forward to going hopefully again this weekend.
Okay, so then if you get 2 notifications on your phone, one of them from this app that's going to tell you that your camera's got a deer in sight, and you got another notification from a 5-star recruit who wants to talk to you, what are you taking first, Danny?
Oh, boy. Just in case Trey Biddy's listening, I'm jumping on that 5-star.
No, we want truth. We want truth. Come on. I know the answer is deer.
Here's the truth. You want the truth. Here's the truth. You wouldn't believe how many stories I've written from a deer stand. That's the truth. I will sit in there, and because, I sit in these blinds that deer can't see in, so why not? I take my computer, got a little hotspot. I've watched many a games and written many a story from a Deer stand.
I love it. Technology. Yeah.
That's the truth.
They got to start putting this in the headset so we don't have to worry about this sign stealing stuff.
That's right. Good call.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.